Okay, welcome. It is 10 a.m. We are going to get started with our Saturday seminar on Google Forms. If you can please make sure that you sign in. That way you can get your CEU certificate and any other information. And at the end, we will have an evaluation. That's the only thing that we ask that you do is an evaluation at the end. This Saturday seminar session is sponsored by Advanced Innovative Education. Is there anyone in the audience that is not a member of AIE? I think I recognize all the names. Is there anyone you can type in the chat box that is not a member of AIE? Okay, excuse me, I don't see anyone typing. I think everyone's a member of AIE. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Since everyone is a member of AIE, I want to tell you that this does count for your Saturday seminar, but you have to sign in to make sure that you receive your CEU certificate and, of course, that you get credit for being here. Okay, I know people will be joining us throughout, but we are going to go ahead and get started. Make sure that you sign in. You can either go to educatoralexander.com/sign in, or you can just go to the web links to pod, click sign in, and then click browse to. That's the same thing that you can do for the evaluation. You'll just click evaluation and click browse to. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Melody, I see that you said you didn't hear anything, but I'm guessing that's when no one was talking. So can you hear now, Melody? Okay, I think we had another person join us. Make sure that you sign in, please. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you have a question while I'm showing you how to use a Google form and how to actually create one and edit one, just raise your hand and I should get a little box at the bottom of my screen letting me know that you have a question. So I was trying to get Melody on, but I think we will have to move on. She's not answering. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, so you should see my desktop or my Google Forms pop up soon. If you have just a white screen when I do this, that means that you did not add on the add-in, and you will have to do that. So I'm going to stop this and start sharing my screen. Let's get into it. Okay, so right now you should actually see my Google Drive. Okay, I'm not seeing any boxes popping up, so I think we are good to go. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. How do you start using Google Forms? You do have to have a Google Drive account. So if you have a Gmail account, you already have a Google Drive account. Just whatever it is, you have to have a Google Drive account. So you have to create an account and then you can use Google Forms. How do you get to Google Forms? The first thing you have to do is get to Google Drive. There's 3 ways to get to Google Drive. The first way is you can click on the little Rubik's Cube that you see here at the top. Anytime you're on a Google product, like right now I'm on a Google.com page. Anytime you're on a Google product, you can click the little Rubik's Cube and come right here to Drive. If you have your bookmark bar activated, you can also come right here to Apps and click on Drive. And the final way is anytime you want to get to a Google product, you just put the product name.google.com. So you will put drive.google.com and press enter in the Omnibox. So that's the 3 ways you can get to Google Drive. When you get to Google Drive, you will be here. If you click on the big red new button, these are your Google Drive apps. But you see that Google Forms is not listed. So you have to go to more, and then Google Forms would be your first one. So this is how you get to Google Forms. And now I'm going to show you everything that you need to know to actually create your Google form. You can use this for so many reasons. You can use it for surveys. You can use it to gather parent information and student information. You can use it for quizzes for your students that will be self-grading. You can use it for, just anything and everything that you want to use it for. Anytime you're collecting any kind of data or information, you can use a Google form. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is name our Google form. I'm going to stop here though and ask if we have any questions. If you have a question, just raise your hand. Okay, perfect. So the first thing we want to do is name our form. If you come up here to where it says untitled form, this is going to be your file name. So in your Google Drive, this is going to be your file name. This is where you name it so that people can see it. So people are going to see this title, they will not see this title. So I'm going to click right here and I'm going to name it whatever I want to name it. Greatest form ever. Now if I come right here to name it to where for the title that everyone's going to see, if I click on it, it's automatically going to say, oh, okay, well I'm sure you want to name it the same thing. But you know what? I don't. I want to name this something different. So what I'm going to do is just click here and change the title. So you see that when I send this form to people, they're going to see survey, but in my Google Drive, I'm going to see greatest form ever. So it's up to you. It could be the exact same thing or it can be different. Right now, I want you to look right here where my mouse is, where it says all changes saved in Drive. As I'm typing, you can see that it's automatically saving. Google products do not have a save button. So what that means is as you type or as you delete or whatever you do, it's going to automatically save. So you don't have to press save anywhere. All right, let's move on. Anytime you see the word description in Google Forms, that is where you can actually put your directions. So for form description, this is the place that you put the directions for the entire form. So I'm going to just say, please fill out this form by July 20th, 2016. Please answer all of the questions. Okay. Next, anytime you start a Google form, they're automatically going to give you your first question. So we have our first question right here. We're going to edit it. You see where this blue line is? That's telling you that that box is activated. If I click on the question, now you see the blue line, my question box is activated. Anytime you add a question or anything that you add to your Google form, it's always going to go beneath the box that's activated. So if I came up here and left this activated and added a question, it will go underneath it and before this question right here. So be careful of what box is activated when you add a question. But I'm going to show you a way that you can move your questions around anyway, so it won't be a problem. Okay, this is my first question. These are my question types. All I did was just click on this box. These are my different question types. We're going to go through all of them. The first one I'm going to go through is short answer. I like that Google Forms, if you see these lines right here, they clump the questions that are alike together. So the difference between short answer and paragraph is that short answer, you will only have short answers, short written answers. Paragraph is when you want those longer answers. If you ask someone how they feel about something, you would want a paragraph and not a short answer. So usually the first question on your form is, what is your name? That would be a short answer. Now, when you are putting your questions for Google Form, you need to ask yourself, how do you want your results to come in? And it sounds a little weird, but let me explain. When you're putting your questions, you need to think about a spreadsheet. So, do I want that question about the name, do I want to just say, what is your name? If you put that, you may get just first name, you may get just last name, you may get first name, last name, you may get last name, comma, first name. You can get a whole bunch of different variety of answers. So think about that, and then think about the spreadsheet. When you get the names, do you want one column with the first name and one column with the last name? Or do you want one column with the first and last name together? What's the difference? The difference is when you want to sort. So if you've never dealt with a spreadsheet before and you don't know what I'm talking about with sort, that means when I get all of your names on the spreadsheet, do I want to just select the last name and sort everything in alphabetical order by last name? If I put last name in a column by itself, I can do that. But if I put the name together, I won't be able to do that. Same thing with the street address. When you're asking somebody for their address, do you want their whole address in one box? Do you want just the street address and then the city in one box and the state in one box? That way you can sort it by state and see how many people are coming from different states. You can sort it by city. So you need to ask yourself that kind of stuff. Anytime you're adding a question, think about the results. Next thing, when I come here to untitled question, this is actually where I type in the question. Think about your audience. If I was dealing with little kids, I may type in, what is your first name? The whole question to make it easier for them. If I'm dealing with adults, I probably can just put first name. So think about your audience and think about how descriptive they need your questions. So I have my question. I'm just going to put first name. It's a short answer, which is perfect. Let's look down here to the different options I have. First of all, do I want this question to be required? That means they will not be able to submit unless they have answered this question. I probably do want my first name to be required. I want them to put something here. If I decide I don't want this question any longer, I can absolutely come here and delete it. The three little dots always gives you different options. For different question types, you have different options per question. This one I'm just going to look at description. Again, remember up here, anytime you see the word description, that's how you can put directions. So I'm going to put a description and just put, please type first name only. Okay. Now, I will warn you that sometimes when people are doing forms, they do not read the directions like anything else, but it's still always good to put it there. Okay, we are done with this question. How do I get my next question? There's two ways. One is I can click the plus sign to add another question, or I can come down here and duplicate this question. What's the difference? If I add a question, it's just going to be a blank added question. If I duplicate, that means this entire box will be completely duplicated. The good thing in duplicating it is, if I have the next question I'm going to ask is last name, I won't have to type all this in again. I want the exact same kind of question. So I'm going to duplicate it and then just change the first to last. If you have directions, don't forget to change it there too. You see that it's still required. All the same stuff that was here is now here. So now that you know how to duplicate, and especially if you have a whole bunch of different answer choices that you want to duplicate, just duplicate. Now I'm just going to click the plus to add. Multiple choice is always going to be your default, but you just click and change it. We've been through short answer and paragraph. Now let's look at multiple choice, check boxes, and drop down. Do I have any questions? Please just raise your hand if you have any questions. Awesome. Now we're going to go through multiple choice, check boxes, and drop down. The difference between these is multiple choice, you can only have one answer chosen. Check boxes, you can have multiple answers chosen. So you decide, do you want your people to only have one answer, or that they can choose, when you say check all that apply, that would be a checkbox. Drop down is what you're going to use when you have a whole bunch of answers. For example, if I asked you, what is your favorite NFL team? You will have a whole bunch of choices. So instead of making my form look really, really long just because I have so many answer choices, I'm going to choose drop down. However, drop down, you can only have one answer. So if I wanted them to choose all that apply, then I would just have to do the check boxes. Let's see all these in action. I'm going to pick multiple choice. I'm going to put a question. I always love this question. Okay, so I have my question. I'm going to come down here to start my answer choices. I just click option 1. Then I come down here to add another option. Then I can either add another option, or I can always click add other. If I click add other, it's going to give them an other choice that they can actually type in. Now look at this. If I forgot, you know what, I did want that third choice. If I click add option, it automatically moves other to the last answer choice. Okay, so now I have my 4 answer choices. And you know what? I actually want this answer choice to be the first one, because that's what people are going to choose. So how do I do that? I come over here to the little dots, click it, and drag it to the top. Okay, I can do the same thing with all of them. I can drag them to the top or the bottom, however I want to do that. Sometimes when you drag it to the bottom, it does that, so you can just drag it up. I can also get rid of an answer by just clicking the X. And if you look at those same little dots are also up here on the whole question, I can also move questions around. So that's what I told you. Even if you forget about this line and you put the question in the wrong spot, it doesn't matter. You can always move the questions around. I'm not going to make this required. Be careful with the required questions. Make sure that they're the only ones that you just must have that information. I may not want to answer this question, so I'm not going to make it a requirement for other people. If you come here, you can see you have the shuffle option order. What that means is when they get the quiz or when they get this, these answer choices will be shuffled. You can also go to selection based on answer. What that means is, this is a kind of cool thing. What that means is I can say that if they click extremely, take them past these 2 questions and put them in a whole different section. I'm going to show you how to do sections a little bit later. But it's kind of cool that you can say, if they pick awesomely, extremely yes, I want them to bypass the next 2 questions and go to the 5th question. So you can tell it to do that, and you can give it a description. Now, since I have these answer choices already, I'm just going to duplicate it and choose checkboxes, duplicate it, and choose drop down. Now, by this point, I want to see how this form looks to the everyday person that I send it to. I'm going to come up here and look at the eye, which is your preview. I'm going to click it. It's going to open up a new window. And this is how my form will look to everyday people that I send it to. Now, when you do the preview, your form is actually live. What that means is if I want to go ahead and fill this form out, it's going to become one of my responses. It's a live form. As you can see, I have my title, I have my directions. My required looks this way where it has the little asterisk by it. I have my multiple choice. I can only choose one answer. I have my checkboxes where I can choose all the answers if I want to. Other, I can type in. And then my drop down gives it to me this way where I can choose one. So you see how professional this looks, and it didn't take that much time. I will tell you that the multiple choice has a little snag to it right now, where checkboxes, if I say, I made a mistake, I really don't want to answer this, that's narcissistic, I don't know why she's asking me that, I can go ahead and take that off and I don't have to answer it. Drop down, I can just put it back on choose. But unfortunately, right now with multiple choice, it won't let you deselect. And I think it's just a little glitch. Once you select one, you have to select one. So to save your people, you may want to always, for multiple choice, until this is fixed, you may want to go ahead and put a NA or a none answer. So just in case they clicked it by mistake, they can't unselect it. So if they had a none right here or an NA, not applicable, I could choose that. All right, that's my form so far. To get back to editing it, I can just go back to my window where I was editing it, or I can click the pencil, and the pencil will put you back to editing the form. Now, it will ask you, hey, are you sure you want to leave? Why is it asking you this? Because remember, your form is live. So your computer is thinking, hey, you just started filling this out, but you're not done. You didn't submit it. So I'm just going to say, yeah, I want to leave, and now I go back to my editable form. All right, let's add some more questions. Now we're down here with linear scale and multiple choice grid. Any questions before we move on? Just raise your hand. Okie dokie. Linear scale gives you a linear scale. You can choose 1 to 2 if you want to, or 1 to 10. I'm just going to leave it at 1 to 5. You tell it what 1 means and what 5 means. 1 can mean good, 5 can mean bad, however you want to put that. But you see good and bad came right here. You can put more than one word here. But what am I missing right now? Of course, I'm missing the question. So how are you feeling today? Alright, so I have my linear scale. I can make it required or not. You have your description for your options. I'm going to go ahead and add another question and make this a multiple choice grid. Remember when we added the multiple choice question, multiple choice means one answer. So they can only answer one answer per row or per column. With the multiple choice grid, this is the only question you kind of have to think about for a second, because either your columns or your rows have to be answered in the same way. And every time I say that, it's like, what? It's a little confusing. But let me show you what I mean. This is really good if you want to do a satisfaction survey. So I'm not going to do a satisfaction survey. I'm just going to ask a question. What is your favorite junk food flavor? So on the rows, I'm going to put different junk food. I'm going to say ice cream, candy, and I'm just using the tab to get to the next one. Or you can, of course, just come and click on it. Cake, that's good enough. And then in the columns, I'm going to put chocolate, vanilla, if I can spell, and strawberry. That's good enough. Okay. Right here, you can require that they answer one response per row. That makes this, of course, a required question, and it makes them answer each one. So it's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and look at the preview. I have my scale. Yay! And of course, it won't let me uncheck it. And then now I have what is your favorite, and you can see that I have ice cream, candy, and cake, but these, the answers, have to fit every category. Hopefully that makes sense now. If I put chocolate up here, it has to fit every category that I put right here. So that's the only thing that you need to think about. Again, this is really good if you want to ask, how was our service or how clean was our office? And you put, bathroom, front desk, and then right here you would put somewhat, very, that kind of stuff. And then they can answer it. So they can answer each one in each row. But since it is multiple choice, they have to answer one until they fix that. All right, so now you have those two. I'm going to add another question. Do we have any questions so far before we move to the last two? Okay, Google Forms. Anytime somebody answers a Google form, it is time stamp dated. It is time dated stamped, I should say. What that means is anytime they answer it, automatically the time and the date that they turned it in will automatically be there. So please never put a question on your form that says, what's today's date or when are you turning this in? It's automatically timestamp dated. I keep saying that wrong. You get my point. So I always have people say, well, why would you need these two questions? Well, think about if you're asking somebody, what date do you want to meet? So I'm going to add a date question, and that's going to be my question. What date would you like to meet? Of course, you have your same stuff down here, but with your options, you can either include the year or not. And I'm going to show you the difference between those. Of course, if I'm asking what date you want to meet, in August, then I won't include the year. It's this year, of course. But I'm going to put it so I can show you the difference. And you can include the time. Now, again, every time you are putting your questions on here, you are thinking about your results. So do you want the date and the time in one box, in one column? Or do you want the date in one column and the time in one column so you can sort by time or date? So it's up to you. I am going to take off time and I'm going to add a time question right here. And on time, you can add duration or the actual time. So if you want them to say, 3 hours, or do you want them to put, 1 to 3, whatever. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and preview it. This is the date. This is how it looks if you have the year. It gives you a nice little calendar so you can go from year to year and that kind of stuff. The time, you would just type in and you can tell it AM or PM. Now I'm going to go back and change this to no year so you can see the difference. Now it does not give them a calendar because you don't need a calendar. It's just this year. So now they can put, December 7th, and that's when they want to meet, and then they can do the time. Hello, Melissa. I see your message. Okay, so there you go. That's how you do date and time. That is it for question type. Now we're going to go through the options over here. Any questions before we move on? Okay, I don't see any hands. I think we're good to go. Okay, I already showed you what the add question does. I'm going to skip this just for a second and come down to these two. You can add a video and add an image. Let me show you the difference. If you add an image, it's going to ask you where do you want this picture to come from. You can either upload it from your computer, which will probably be the one that you use the most. You can take a snapshot with your webcam. You can put in the URL. You can actually go to your albums in your Google Plus. You can go to your Google Drive and upload. These are not my dogs. These are dogs I use for training purposes. So you can go to your Google Drive and click any of the, I always choose dogs for some reason. And then you can search. I think I just had a message pop up. Is going in and out. Is it going in and out for anyone else? Is the audio messing up for anyone else? Just type no if it's not. All right, Melody, I think it's something with your computer because no one else is having that problem. I'm so sorry. Audio is very low. Suresh, make sure that your volume is up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get back to it. Okay, I see a couple of people typing. I'm just trying to make sure I get their messages. Suresh, just make sure that your, I just put the mic closer to my mouth, but make sure that your volume is up. And this is a very good test for cohort 11. If anyone's in cohort 11, this is a good test for you because this is how we're going to be doing it when we come together. All right, going back, I can search. My audio is lagging, but okay. All right, so I'm going back to search and I'm just going to put in cat. And I see all the different cats that would come up even if I did a Google search. That's what you're doing right here. I'm just going to double click this one. And now I have the big old picture of the cat. I can click on it and the blue box will come up around it that says that it's selected. And I can go ahead and make him a little bit smaller. He's kind of big. And I can align him or justify him where I want him to be. I can add a title if I want to, but I do not have to. And I can change it whenever I want to change it. So some people will ask me, well, why in the world would I want to have a picture in my Google form? Well, sometimes what I'll do in my Google form is I'll put a thank you picture right here at the end of the Google form just to say thank you. But remember, you can do quizzes with Google Forms. So imagine putting a picture here and asking a question about it. So then the next question would be, well, how do I ask a question about it? Well, you can put the question right here if you want to. It's up to you. Or just add a question. So how cute is this cat? And I'll just make it a short answer. And let's go see how that looks. I didn't put a title for the cat, so there's nothing right here. But you see the cat, and now it's how cute is this cat, and the students can answer it. And you see how it flows really well. There's not a line here to separate it or anything like that. So you have a picture, and you can ask a question about the picture. If I wanted to add a title right here, I could. I'm just going to put cat. And now I have a title right here. So you could put something right here, answer the following questions about the cat, whatever. And then you'll have the cat and you'll have the questions. All right, and there you go. You can also do the same thing with video. I'm going to add a video. YouTube is the product of Google, so you can only use YouTube. And if you have a YouTube URL, you can put it right there. I'm just going to do a YouTube search for cat. Funny cats, I love it. I'm going to double click. I have the video. I can align it or justify it, however you want to say that. And then, of course, like I said before, if I want to ask a question, view this video and tell me blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's see how that looks. There I go. Then I have the video with the question. I didn't put a title, but we've already saw it up here. So if I put a title, it'll be a title right here. Next thing I want to show you is the TT. That's how to add a title and a description. Let me check. My audio is lagging, but I think it's due to my internet. It is. Usually if the audio is not matching what I'm saying, it is your internet connection speed. That's a good diagnosis. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here right before we started adding pictures and videos, and I'm going to add a title, and I'm going to show you how that looks. So you know, anytime you add something, it goes under it. So actually, I'm going to go right here so it can be under it. I'm going to add a title that says media. You know, anytime you're dealing with pictures and video, that's considered media. And I can put a description here if I want to, but I'm not going to. Let me show you how the title looks. It's very good to break up your form. So you see I have my form. I'm scrolling down. I'm answering the questions. Oh, now I have a title that tells me I'm moving on to a separate section. So that's what that title does. Doesn't look too cool right here. It's just like, oh, whatever. But when you get right here, it creates a nice little divider, a nice little break to the rest of your form. I could even put one right here before time in question and call it, event details. So now when I look at it, event details, media, so you get the point. Okay, so we've gone through all of these except for the last one, which is add section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back down here to where I put media, and I'm going to add a section. If you've ever received a Google form and it had different pages to it, this is how you create this. When I click add section, it's going to add a section underneath wherever I was. And you see now it says section 2 of 2. It says untitled section and it gives me a description. Right here where it says after section 1, continue to next section, you really won't play with this unless you have more than 2 pages. If you have 2 pages, of course you want them to go to the next section. But if I had, let's say, 5 pages on my form, then I may choose something different for them to go to after the first page. And of course, you're going to click go, continue to the next section. Let's see how this looks. Now when I come down, it says next for me to get, oh, it won't let me go because remember I have those required questions. Now I'm on the next page. So it gives me another page where now I have submit or I can go back. And you see where it said untitled section? I don't want that to stay there. That looks weird. So I'm going to leave and I'm going to come back to untitled section. I can delete that and not put anything there. If I do that, nothing will be there. So you just have to delete the untitled section. Now, if you want to have a title right under this, that's up to you. You would just go ahead and fill it in. So I'm just going to leave it blank. So that's how you get 2 different pages or more than that. When you come right here, these are important. If you're like, you know what, I really don't want 2 pages, I really just want 1, do not click delete section. What that will do will delete your entire section. So if you click delete section, you're saying that you want all of section 2, which means all of these questions and pictures and videos to be deleted. Duplicate will duplicate this entire page. And that may be good if I, just want to change a couple of things on it for the next page. And then if you want to just not have the 2 pages at all, you're going to say merge with above. And now you see how it made it one nice form again. Now I want to show you, you saw that I went down here and clicked undo. If you do something in Google Forms and you want to undo it, there's a little box that pops up down here that says undo, but you only have a couple of seconds to click it before it goes away. So if you do delete your entire section, don't sit there shocked and don't know where to go. Just go ahead and go to the little undo right here. Also, I just did this session in at a conference in Baton Rouge, and someone told me that if you click Control Z, like in zebra, it will come back. So that's a nice little trick that I didn't know. Control Z, like in zebra. So I'm going to delete the whole section. Oh no! So you see down here it says undo. I can click undo and it came back. So that's what you do. Or you can click Control Z. I haven't tried that, but it was a nice little trick, and I'm definitely going to try it later. So there you go. Those are the different sections you can do. Those are the different formats you can do. These are the different questions. You have everything you need to create your form. Now, let's make it pretty. If you come up here to color palette, do I have any questions before I move on? I try to ask for questions before each section. Just raise your hand. Okie dokie. If I come right here to color palette, I can choose different colors. And you notice when I choose the different colors, all my little titles change as well. But the great thing to this is right here. This is where the magic happens. If you click the last one, you get themes. What themes will do is they will put these pictures up here. So you see you have a whole bunch of different categories. You can choose different themes. Some of the themes, when you're looking at them right here, will look like they have movement. But when you publish it, it won't. So I don't know if that's something that's coming in the future. But for now, it doesn't have movement. So I'm going to click the jelly beans is what I usually use for training purposes. And when you notice it changes the top picture, it also changes your color on the side. You cannot change that as of now. Now, I do want to show you, if you go back to color and go back to themes, if you look down here, you can actually upload your own pictures. So if you have a logo or something like that that you want to upload, you can do that right here. When you upload it, I do want to show you this. This is not important for some people, but important for other people. You see how short this is at the top, the jelly bean picture? But then if I go to preview, you see that it is longer. So that makes a difference when you're adding your logo or something like that. If you're over here, you're like, oh, they can't see it, it's being cut off. Always preview it to see how it's really going to look to people when you send it to them. Also, you see that the title colors changed as well. So that's color palette. You already know preview. Now let's look at settings. Settings are very, very important. The first clump of settings, which is general, the first tab, the first one says, do you want them to require sign-in? That means, do you want people to have to sign in to take your form, your quiz, your survey, whatever? If you do, you're going to have different options. You will not see this type of option unless you are signed into a domain. That means if your school has created a school domain, you sign into, at cattleschools.org or at ebrschools.org or whatever it is, you can choose to restrict anybody that's filling out this form. They have to be signed in to that domain. Of course, this may be good. It creates a little bit more safety for your form. But that means if you send your form to somebody who's an EBR, but they're signed in under their Gmail, they will not be able to do the form. So you kind of want to really think about this. Also, do you want to collect email addresses? When they have to sign in, do you want to collect those email addresses? Do you want to limit it to one response, which means when they sign in, after they fill it out one time, if they try to sign in and fill it out again, it will say, no, ma'am, you've already filled it out. Do you want response receipts? That's only if you collect email addresses. You see, if I don't click that, that's not going to come up. So response receipts, I like these little question marks because it kind of gives you like, what does that mean? Do you want respondents to receive a copy of their responses? So if you go just hover over that, it'll tell you what it means. Either if they request it, like if they say I want a copy, or always. So it's up to you. So these are your different options. I'm going to take them all off, but these are your different options. What can respondents do? These are the people that actually answer your quiz or survey. Do you want them to be able to edit it after they submit it? What it's going to do is give them on that final page where it says, congratulations, you submitted the form. You all should have just done a form when you signed in. Do you want them to edit it? That means it's going to have a nice little line that says, I want to edit my responses. This may be good if you're collecting a lot of information. So what that means is, let's say I had, you collected my phone number, my address, and all this information, but I put one number wrong in my phone number. If I have the edit, that means I can click on that, go back and change it. If I don't, then that means I either have to fill out a brand new form, or I have to email you and tell you that something was wrong on my form, something like that. So you can decide if you want this or not. Do you want your respondents to see a summary of their responses? If you're doing a quiz, of course you do not want this. If you're collecting information, of course you do not want this. Because what this means is, if I go take your form, I'm going to be able to see what everyone else has responded. If you choose this and you're getting my phone number, my email address, that means you just giving that to everybody who fills out the form, which is not cool. But you may want them to see it. Let's say I sing out a form, and you can see what the little question mark says. If I sing out a form that says, hey, what time does everybody want to meet? And that's the only question, what time or date or whatever. I may want everyone to see what everybody else is responding. So that way you can see, everybody's putting 3 o'clock, you put 4 o'clock, you may want to be ready to go at 3, because most people are putting 3. So this kind of, it depends on how you want to have it. So I'm going to leave it checked. I'm going to go to presentation for the next tab. If you have multiple pages of your Google form, please show the progress bar. What that does is it shows me how much longer I have in this form. It shows me how much I've gotten through. If you have a one-page form, it's up to you. But if you have a multiple-page form, the reason why this is so important is, I like to fill out surveys for people because I know it's hard to get information. But if soon as I open up a Google form, if I see it's multiple pages and they don't have a progress bar, it's going to the bottom of my list. Why? Because I honestly don't know how long the form is going to be. If I see a progress form, a bar, and I see that, the first page is 50% done, then okay, I know it's only 2 pages. I should be able to get through it. So the progress bar really helps with multiple pages, or even if you want to put it on a single page, you can. Shuffle question order is again up to you. If you have students taking a quiz and they're sitting side by side, you may want to shuffle the question order so their number one is not somebody else's number one. I will tell you that if you shuffle the question order, then the first name and last name question will also be shuffled. So they will ask them, what is the capital of this? And then first name will be the second question. So if you shuffle it, it shuffles everything. Show a link to submit another response is again up to you. On that confirmation page where it says you've successfully turned in your form, do you want them to show a link for them to submit another response? That means they can click on it and fill out the form again. Now, if you don't do this, they can simply go back to their email address or however you shared it and click it there and submit another response. So it's really up to you. Do you want them to show the link? The only time they cannot submit other responses is if you limit it to one response. Confirmation message. This is what is going to show after they turn it in. Your response has been recorded. You can change that. I'm going to change it to you rock. Next, this is very, very new to Google. If it was announced at ISTE, it came out. It was announced at ISTE. It was told to some of the Google. I am a Google certified trainer and a Google innovator, and it was told to us a little bit ahead of time. But of course, we can't make any announcements until it's announced by Google. So I'm very happy that this is now out, and it's a way to actually make your Google form a quiz and self-gradable. So if I come right here and click make this a quiz, you see all these come up. To release the grade, I can either let Google tell the person what they made immediately after they submit it, or I can just wait until I actually look at everything and then I'll tell them what grade they made. And then if I wanted to do that, they would have to, I could, of course, give them their grade myself. But if you want Google to do it after I type in a grade, then you can read those directions. They'll have to put their email address. These, what can your people that are taking the quiz, usually your students, what can they see? Okay, this one is, do you want them to see what questions they miss? This one is, do you want them to see the correct answers for each question? And of course, that's a little tricky if you want, if you don't want them writing them down and giving them to the next period. This one is, do you want them to see how much each question is worth? So I'm going to leave everything blank, everything checked, and I'm going to click save. Now, once I do that, everything that I did is saved. If I come and click on a short answer or a paragraph question, nothing is down here. But if I click on a multiple choice or constructive, all the other types of questions, you see that now I have something down here called answer key because I made it a quiz. If I didn't make it a quiz, this would not be there. If I click on answer key, it's going to ask me, hey, which one is the right answer? I'll click on the one, so if they choose this, it's going to self-grade. So if they choose this, they will get it right. And then I can tell it how many points I want it to be. 5 points. I can actually add some feedback for the answer if you get it wrong. Oh no, try again. Or, whatever. Or if they get it right, good job, you're awesome. So you can add that. You can add feedback, and you can also add a link. Maybe to a cat dancing if they got it right. Whatever. So you see, I have that. And then I can move on to another question. So now I have a points up here, and it's showing me that this is the correct answer. Okay, so that's how you do your quizzes. Of course, if it's short answer or paragraph, it will not self-grade. You will have to grade that. So, but that's how you can make very, very quick quizzes now in Google, and it grades itself. Anybody who's used Google Forms before, you used to have to use Flubaroo or another add-in to do this. You no longer have to do that. You can do it right here on Google Forms. Okie dokie. Any questions so far before we move on? And we're going pretty quickly, so we definitely won't use the whole 2 hours. You will be getting out early. Okay, next thing is over here. I'm going to skip the send button right now. You have 2 icons over here. This one, you'll either have your initial or you'll have your picture. This is just your account. You have this on all the Google products. So now I'm going to look at the 3 little buttons that say more. You can actually make a copy of your entire form. You can also do that on your Google Drive if you right-click and make a copy. You can move it to the trash. That's deleting it. You can print it. You can add collaborators, which means, you know what? I need you to help me create this form. So I'm going to add collaborators, and I'm going to either send them a link or put their email addresses and say, hey, I need you to help me create the form. If you do that, you're going to come right here to private. change it to whatever option you need. Anyone with the link, whatever option you need, and it's always going to say they can edit. And then, or you put their email addresses in here and you click done. Script editor you will not be playing with unless you are a scripter. And add-ons are, I'm not going to go through add-ons, but add-ons and extensions are things that will help your Google form in different ways. So if you click that, you can kind of search the different add-ons that they have. Like form notifications, it'll notify you every time somebody submits a form, even though I'm going to show you how you can do that in Google Forms. But different stuff that can help you. All of them are not good, but you can always try them. And you thought I skipped this one, but I skipped it on purpose. This is to get a pre-filled link. What this does is it asks you, well, which one of these questions do you want to have already filled out before you send it to a certain person? For example, if you're dealing with a SPED population, where I only have maybe 2 SPED kids in my classroom, and I want to actually go ahead and fill out the name for them, so to help them out, whatever. So what you do is you'll get a pre-filled link. You'll click on that. It's going to ask you, well, which questions do you want to answer? And I'm going to say, oh, you see how I left it shuffled. So you see how first name went under how awesome am I? That's what happens when you shuffle them. Good. That's why I like to leave all those. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to answer this question for them, and I'm going to put their name. So once you're done, you click submit, and then it's going to give you a link that you send to that one person. So you can copy the link, send it to Desiree, and then she will already have these 2 questions filled out for her. Everyone else can just get the regular link. So kind of cool if you're dealing with, I don't know, any population. I know one teacher said she teaches really, really little kids, and she wanted to fill out their names for them on each form and send them each a different link on their, put a different link on their computer. So I was like, okay, cool beans. So there you go. You have pre-filled link. Any questions before we move on? Just raise your hand. Awesome. Let's move on. Next is the send button. This is how you actually get your form out to the world. Click send. You have an option. We have 3 different ways to send. You have email addresses, you have a link, and you have an embed code. With the email addresses, you will put their email addresses right here. You can just copy and paste them in. You can put the subject of your email and the message in your email. You can also add collaborators right here. You can collect usernames. You will not see this unless you're on a domain. And this one is really important. If you have a really small form, for example, you're just asking for, can you attend this meeting and what time can you attend, for example. If you have a really small form, you can click right here to include the entire form in the email. So that way they don't have to click on anything. They can actually answer the form in the email and submit it. Now, if your form is, more than 5 questions, you probably don't want to include it in the email. If your form has pictures and video, you do not want to include it in the email because some people can't even accept pictures in their emails. So this is only for little forms, quick forms, but I have to tell you, I do love when a form is included because it's very simple for me to just click and go. And then you would click send. You see you have some social media. You can share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, or share it on Google+. This is the one you're going to be using the most, sending the link out to people. You would simply click on it. You can right-click and copy it. You can copy it right here. For some reason, when I do this, it doesn't work all the time. Or you can Control C to copy it. That's your keyboard shortcut. Control C copies it. Control V as in Victor, paste it. You also have your Google URL shortener. So you see how long this URL is? I can click here and it'll shorten it for me. Okay, so you can copy and paste that as well. If you do the URL shortener, you see how some of these are small case, some of these are lowercase, some of these are uppercase. They are case sensitive, so they'll have to put that in. There's other URL shorteners, but since we're dealing with the Google product, this is Google's. Make sure that you check your link anytime before you send it to people. Just, do a quick paste and go and make sure that it looks the way you want it to look. Beautiful. Now I can go. If I shorten it, I'm going to do the same thing. Well, I can just click go to. Do the same thing to check my link. Just to make sure before you send it off. And then this is an embed code. So if you have a website or something like that, you can copy and paste this and put it into your website. You just went to sign in. If you didn't, you're going to have to sign in at the end. That's the only way you can get your CEU certificate. When you signed in, I embedded that Google form into my website. So that's how it's going to look. You get a live demonstration. That's how it's going to look if you embed it into your website. Those are the ways to send your form. Now we're going to look at the responses once those responses start rolling in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my form live, and I'm just going to fill in a couple of things so I can get some responses. That's good enough. Where's last name? There we go. Next, and then, whatever, submit. So now you see the screen that they're going to get. You remember I changed this to You Rock, so that's how it's going to look. Remember, I left these options available. You do not have to have them. It's up to you. See previous responses. So I would see everything and everybody responded right here. I'm the only one who responded, so I only see one. Oh. Well, I guess I'll have more than one response. That's good. All right, you can edit your response. I can click here and go back and go, oh, that's not my name. I know I'm editing a previous response. Next. And submit. Or I can submit another response, which will bring me to a blank form. And you see now it shuffled my answers again. I told it that I wanted the students to see the point value. So you see that's right here. So there you go. So I'm going to click off of this. I'm back at my I'm back at my editable form. And now look at here. It's telling me, hey, you have 2 responses. Yay! So I'm going to click on responses, and I have different ways to see the responses. The first way is the summary. So it's telling me, hey, these are all the responses you received. I really like that it gives you charts and graphs. And it tells you right here how many people responded to which questions. You can see individual responses. What this is actually as if they filled out a paper form. So this is one person's form or quiz. And see how it said it was wrong. And then right here, I'm looking at one person's. I can click right here and look at the second person's. So I can actually print these out if I wanted one person's form or one person's quiz. Okay, you can print. You can also delete a response. If I have a deadline, I told them to fill this out by July 20th, 2016. It is now July 21st. I'm going to come up here and stop accepting responses. This is the message they're going to get. The form is no longer accepting responses. Or I can change that to, you suck or whatever, since you rocked when you turned it in. All right, so the form is no longer accepting responses. I can change that if I want to. And then, I'm going to have Johnny come up and go, but I couldn't do it. Okay, Johnny, I can go ahead and turn it back on. Hurry up. Hurry up and fill it out because I'm about to turn it off again. And then you can turn it off again. So it's very easy to turn your responses on and off. If you come up here, you have different options, but I'm actually go through these after I do the last type of response. So you have a summary, you have individual, and you have your spreadsheet. When you click create spreadsheet, it lets you name it. I usually just leave it like this because it's going to be whatever you named your file with responses at the end. So I usually like that, but you can do it however you want to. So I'm going to click create. I'm not skipping this. I will come back to it. So now I have a spreadsheet. You see the timestamp that I promised you. So it tells me I did this one at 11:02 and I did this one at 11:02 with 46 seconds and I did them both on the 16th. It tells me my score. I failed both tests. Woo. And it tells me my questions and what I answered all of them. I'm not going to get into explaining Google Sheets, but I just want to show you this one thing. If you go to File and Download As, you can download it as an Excel spreadsheet if you would like to, or a PDF. Okay, so I have my spreadsheet. Yay, I'm ready to go. Now, when I come back up here, I have different options. I can print all the responses. I'm going to tell you why you would delete them all in a second. I can download them. I can select where I want the responses to go. And I can email notification every time somebody turns in a new response. So you remember when I went to adding and they had an adding for that? You don't have to do an adding. You can just come here and say email me every time somebody responds. I'm going to take that off, but you can leave it on. Okay, unlink form, delete all responses, and select response destination. I'm going to tell you why you would do those three. If you have, let's say you're doing a quiz, and you want a quiz for first period, a quiz for second period, and a quiz for third period. How you would do that is you would actually copy the quizzes. So what you would do is you can come here or exactly where I was, and you see this is a sample form. I can right click and click make a copy. What it's going to do is make a copy of that exact form, and then I can right click again and rename it for, sample form third period. And then I can have that one I would send to third period and this one I would send to second period, however you want to do that. I can also do the same thing right here, make a copy and name it third or fourth period, let's say. And it's going to go, now this is my new form for fourth period. And I can change the question if I want to, blah, blah, blah. If you, let's say it's the next school year and you want to use the same exact forms, or let's say you were using the form to collect parent information and you're done and now you want to use the form again for a different group of parents. If you want to use AIE as an example, let's say I use this form for cohort 10 and now I want to use it for cohort 11. This is what you can do. Now, of course, you can copy the form exactly how I showed you, or you can unlink the form from the spreadsheet. Okay, you saw my spreadsheet, I had, 2 responses. If I come here and unlink the form from the spreadsheet, what it's going to do is it's going to leave all the responses on my spreadsheet. My spreadsheet will not go away. My spreadsheet is done with all my information. But what it's going to do is unlink it. So what that means is when I get new responses, it's going to go on a brand new spreadsheet. And this is what I do now when I'm getting, like I said, if I use this form for cohort 10 and I want to use it for 11, I'm going to unlink it because I still have all my responses for cohort 10. And now, when I come back here, now it's giving me a brand new spreadsheet to get responses. Samantha, I'm going to get to you in 1 second. So it's giving me a brand new spreadsheet to get brand new responses. I can also come here and delete all these responses I have right now because again, I want to just kind of clear off this form. So I'm going to delete, I'm going to say yes, and now I have a brand spanking new form. Same form I had before, but now it can collect a brand new set of responses. Samantha, go ahead and type in your question. Oh, I think you already did it. Awesome. Let's see. How did you get to the responses page? That's a good question, Samantha. This is your question. This is where I'm editing and adding questions. I simply come up here to responses. I'm going to go ahead and take the form. I really just need first name and last name. So you see, I'm on the question where I edit and add questions. I'll come right here to responses. I get the summary. I have the individual. And then I can come right here to create my spreadsheet. Any other questions? Just raise your hand. Okay. Also, I can select existing spreadsheets. So what does that mean? That means if I don't want these responses to go on a brand new spreadsheet, I can tell it to actually add these responses to one that I already have. Somebody, when I just did this training, said, well, what if I turned it off and then I unlinked everything, and then of course Johnny came, from the rear and was like, hey, I still haven't done it. Then you can turn it on, and then when he does his responses, you can select the same spreadsheet for third period, and you'll add the responses to this spreadsheet. So they've kind of thought of everything. So for example, for cohort 10 and cohort 11, if I wanted all the information to be on the same one, I can unlink cohort 10, and then when I link cohort 11, I can just tell it to go on the existing spreadsheet. So that's how you can modify your different responses. This is how you get the different types of responses, how you can kind of organize them. And there you go. Samantha has a question. Go ahead and type in your question. Okay. Okay, so that in a nutshell is how you use Google Forms, is how you get your Google Forms out to the world, and how do you get and organize your responses. Your Google form, I'm going to put, let's see, greatest form ever 123, because I think I named one that before. So if I get out of here, I'm going to have Google Forms. I don't see greatest form ever 123, so I'm just going to refresh my screen. And for some reason, I still don't see greatest form ever 123. But this is the one that I just modified at 11:11. Maybe it didn't say when let's see. Oh, no, that's not where I want to go. I think I saw it in there, though. Okay, now it's saved. 123. I guess I didn't give it a second to save. Greatest form ever 123. Alright, there I go. Sorry, Google. I didn't give it time to save. Okay, so there it is. That's everything that you need to know. I'm going to bring back up. I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen. until someone has a question, and then I'll come back. Okay, we have 17 participants. I know some of you are in AIE, some of you may not be. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to go ahead and type it in the chat box. I did see the question that asked, do I record? And yes, I do. This is recorded and it will be on my YouTube channel, and I can bring you there in a second. It will be up there either the end of today or tomorrow. Um, what I need you to do right now is everyone, please make sure that you have signed in. Oh, no, that's not what I want. You can either go to, oh, that's why it's not up. Excuse me for that. Let me bring up the PowerPoint again. When you sign in, that's the way that you will receive a CEU certificate. You can use educatoralexander.com/sign-in, or you can go to where it says web links to, click sign in, and then click browse to, and it will bring you to the sign in. If you've already signed in, please go to the evaluation. Again, the evaluation is educatoralexander.com/evaluation, or you can go to the web links to pod, click evaluation, browse to, and it will automatically bring you to there. I did put a Google Drive link for you, drive.google.com, if you want to browse to Google Drive and save it as a favorite, completely up to you. The two things that you need to do is make sure that you sign in. That's the only way you will get a CEU certificate, and make sure your email and the information that you put on there is correct. And please complete an evaluation. This webinar is given for free because it is sponsored by Advanced Innovative Education, AIE, and that company is a educational leadership certification company. So if you look at the sign-in, it does give you a little bit of information about them and asks if you want any more information. If you're already in AIE, of course you will put no because you're already in it, and you will put no for the email list because you are already on the email list. So there you go. This is it. I appreciate you attending. If you have any questions, please just raise your hand. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording at this time. So if you have any questions, please let me know so everyone can actually learn from your questions. I'll give it a couple of seconds to go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, well, thank you so much for attending. If you've done the sign-in, I see someone typing. If you've done the sign-in and the evaluation, you are free to leave. To get out, you can simply go ahead and click the X. Okay, I thought someone was typing in a question. But please do the sign-in and the evaluation. Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this time, and then I'll be here if you have any questions about AIE or any questions about anything else. Thank you so much.